Hey, it's AAA. Welcome to me talking through the Tiny Rogue 0.1.9 patch notes. Both 0.1.9, we're also going to be going version B and C. This is going to take a hot minute, so if you enjoy me reading through these patch notes, feel free to interact with the video in some way. I asked on the Discord if you still wanted me to go through and do all this now that there have been changes, and it took me a little bit because I was in New York when this update dropped, and it was an anonymous yes. So, anonymous? No. Unanimous, that's the one. So we're going to talk through it. This update is incredible, I adore it, and not just because I'm in it. But we're going to be reading through the whole thing, and we will read Ruby's statement at the start of the update. In Tiny Rogue 0.1.9, I want more focus on improving the base experience of Tiny Rogues. I haven't added any new classes, new floors, or boss enemies. This update still massively improves the game, and adds a giant amount of new content and replayability, which we love. I am going to be putting so many hours into this update, I am looking forward to it. The next 3 Tiny Rogues videos, because I believe this will be going up on January the 2nd, I have videos recorded for the 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Those are from before the update, before I left for New York City. So, let's read the highlights portion. This first part is irrelevant because I'm late to the punch. The holiday event. Santa was a permanent visitor over the holidays, and there were Christmas hats on a couple of enemies. I believe the Mind Flamer is the only one I know off the top of my head. It also added the Cinders system with up to 16 additional difficulty modifiers. The Broken Hero Sword can finally be repaired with 6 legendary new sword variants. There's now pawn shop rooms to sell weapons and equipment to Lucian the Collector. Blood Shrines are now called Blood Altars and grant new rewards. Lovely change. Now added Charms, which are a new type of item that grants stats while in inventory. Perfect. I believe I even suggested that exactly at one point in the video. Bunch of new and unique consumable items, including 2 more dice. Massive equipment overhaul. Almost every piece of equipment in the game has either been buffed, or at least made more unique and enticing to use. That's part of why this video is going to be long. I actually have a mini Pepsi next to me for in between sections. There's now more than 30 new equipment items. There's new weapons, equipment, event rooms, and other stuff. This update adds a bunch of creator Easter eggs, which is new content that relates to content creators that made videos on Tiny Rogues or streamed the game. That includes me. Hello. Also a buff to Melee, as well as a rework to Armories and 11 new achievements. If we go down to the content creator Easter eggs portion, you'll see that yours truly is right up here at the top, which made my little heart happy. I know it's not organized in any particular order, but it just made my little heart happy, I'm not gonna lie. He mentions that I didn't catch everyone who created Tiny Rogues content. If your favorite content creators played Tiny Rogues and missed them, let them know. My favorites are here. I'm not my favorite, but I am pretty great. So, for yours truly, there is an eye patch item. I think if I click this link, it'll take me to it. Yeah! There was a tweet with it, in reference. I think this was either in a video, or this was a conversation I had with him. I don't actually remember for sure. I think it might have been both, actually. So it's now in the game. This one's for you. Thank you for making so many videos on Tiny Rogues. And he thinks the vision-related effects should be quite on brand, which I love. It actually also got buffed in the B version of the update. There are now Wanderbot's Wander Boots, Chance's Averance for Soda Poppin', Seth's Walking Stick for Old Man Seth, which has someone who uses the cane to walk. Also love that. The Watcher's Charm for Dan Giesling. Hand of Blood for Hand of Blood. A Wild Strange Berry event for Wild Friend. Tyler's Robe for Alexa, which I'm looking forward to trying. The Retromation Hoodie Collection, as well as new events on floors 1 and 4. Misfits Sword for Esty. The Goat Force trait for Goat Force. A new Floor 1 event for Sleeping Bear. A new Floor 2 event for Ultra C. A Panda Mask for Admiral Baru. Sophisticated Headgear for Bear Taffy. The Knights of Svid Tavern NPCs for Svid. a new flail for Knob Twiddler, and an eggshell helmet for Northern Lion. These items are incredibly cool. I was following the Twitter releases, because of course I was. And let's hop into the bulk of the update, which is the Cinder system, which adds a nice bit of difficulty scaling to the game. The Cinder system has 16 difficulty modifiers, which are unlocked row by row, as well as adding streaks of numerous kinds. I believe it goes through every single curse later on, or Cinder later on, but there are also some major general changes. Curses no longer reduce maximum hearts by 1. They now inflict a variety of modifiers, including 5% increased enemy health, not too bad. You get poisoned, not great. You lose all your soul hearts, really bad. 10% increased mana degeneration rate, quite bad. 10% increased stamina recovery rate, pretty bad. -1 bomb found, pretty inconvenient. 10% less damage dealt at far range, not the end of the world. 10% less damage dealt against bosses, quite bad. 10% less gold found, tolerable but not great. -5% move speed. Also, picking up a Mana Star will now inherently grant 30% more attack speed for 2 seconds. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Blood Shrines have been reworked into Blood Altars. They will inflict 1 heart of damage instead of consuming a heart, so that way they work with on-damage effects. Thank God. That was a much requested change. Blood Chests have had their reward pool reworked and now grant unique rewards, making them more worth doing, and they also inflict damage instead of consuming a heart. Buffed and tweaked the rewards you get from bombing treasure chests and arcades, so it's more worthwhile. You can also now bomb Blood Altars, Shrines, and Curse Shrines. There's also a new stat, Absolution, which prevents you from getting cursed, which is very useful with some of these Cinders. There are some minor general changes. You can now display your inventory in the HUD with different opacities. Transparencies, rather. Holy damage is now associated with the Judgment status effect, meaning holy damage will trigger Judgment on critical hit. Soul Hearts no longer protect you from being cursed or poisoned anymore. That's huge. It's going to make some of those earlier floors, I'm looking at you, Floor 3, a lot more deadly. Improved the character sheet and made it show some stats that weren't displayed previously. Speedrun mode has been disabled due to being buggy and breaking the game for the time being. Sorry, speedrunners. Blood chests and curse shrines can now spawn on the first floor. Treasure rocks have been buffed. If a room reward spawns multiple rewards, they now won't all spawn on top of each other anymore. Thank you. There have been several instances of me missing items that way. Added a new tooltip to items that provides maximum health, which informs you whether or not the item will recover health upon being attuned or not, or recover hearts upon being attuned or not. The death eye, mark eye that follows you is now very transparent. Thank you. And now weapons. Not too many were added, but lots were changed. Added 7 new swords related to the Broken Hero Sword quest. Added the Misfit Sword and the Knob Twiddler, which is quite a name. Then weapon balance changes. There are a lot of these. That's almost, I think, everyone in the game. So I'll let's do it. Nerf damage bonus from scaling from 1.25% to 1%. Not huge, but noticeable, if you played the game a long time. Nerf the damage bonus from upgrading epic and legendary weapons slightly. Reduce the bend and angle of axe projectiles slightly, making them easier to aim. Thank you. The Spectral Blade Wand now has an altered attack behavior to make it easier to use. The Golden Desert Eagle has been buffed, granting 100% more damage for 1 second after dashing, instead of just that first shot. The Tommy Gun has had a damage increase, up to 100 to 125. The Archon Scepter has had an increased attacks per second from 4 to 5. The Disintegration Scepter has had an attack speed increase from 4 to 5, as well as an increased damage up to 100 to 125. Same for the Freezing Scepter. The Life Drain Scepter has had its attack speed increase from 4 to 5, as well as the Mana and Toxic Scepters have had that same buff. The Acid Cloud Scroll has had a nerf, decreasing its attacks per second from 2.5 to 2. The Blizzard Scroll has had its damage decreased down to 50 to 75, its attack speed decreased from 5 to 4, and is now rare, while it previously was uncommon. I did not use the Blizzard Scroll in its previous state. Apparently it was quite good. This one I did use in its previous state, these next two. The Candy Scroll and the Comet Scroll have received nerfs. The Candy Scroll now has a damage of 75 to 100, with the Comet Scroll having a damage of 175 to 200. Both are still good, though, from what I've been told. The Candy Scroll, not as great anymore. It's a bit more niche now. The Explosion Scroll has had a damage decrease down to 200 to 250. It is now an epic item, previously was rare. The Meteor Scroll has had a buff up to 275 to 300 damage. The Thunderstorm Scroll has had a damage increase up to 125 to 150 and is now a rare, was previously epic. The Nimbus Scroll has had a sizable damage increase and change from 100 to 400, as opposed to the previous, which was 175 to 200. The Volcanic Codex, my boy, has been nerfed from 175 to 200 to 150 to 200. Not a big nerf. You probably won't notice it much. Another weapon I adore, the Crimson Staff, has understandably been nerfed down to 100 to 125 damage. The Dark Wizard Staff has had a damage decrease down to 175 to 200, but the spread of beams has been reduced. The Lightning Staff has had a buff, increasing its damage up to 75 to 100. The Prism Staff has had improved intelligence scaling from D to C tier, and reduced the spread of beams significantly. The Rainbow Staff has had a damage increase hugely up to 275 to 300. So we're going to be doing a Pride run at some point, I hope. The Staff of Unlimited Power has had a massive damage increase up to 175 to 200. The Beetle Wand has been nerfed down to 150 to 175. The Blight Wand has had a buff up to 125 to 150. The Dark Wand has had a damage decrease down to 100 to 125. The Demon Scythe Wand has had much improved dexterity scaling from D to B tier, and made the projectiles pick up speed faster. Dragon's Breath has been buffed up to 125 to 150. The Flame Wand has had a damage increase up to 375 to 400, and an increased attacks per second from 2 to 3. The Frozen Orb Wand has been nerfed, reducing its intelligence scaling from A to B tier. The Holy Bible has had a decrease in damage down to 175 to 200, as has the King Bible. Never encountered King Bible in all my time in this game. The Rift Wand has had a damage increase up to 150 to 200. The Slime Wand has had a damage decrease down to 75 to 100, and the Slither Wand has had a damage decrease down to 125 to 150. The Blasting Wand has had an attack speed increase from 5 to 6, with reduced projectile spread, but slightly. The Blight Wand now always shoots 3 projectiles instead of 2 to 3, and has an attack speed buff from 2 to 4. Very sizable there for the Blight Wand. The Spirit Wand is now legendary and was previously epic. The damage of the status effect has been increased, however, from 400 to 500% of infliction damage. The Obliteration Wand has had its reduced projectile spread, and now fires 3 projectiles instead of 2 to 3. We've gotten a buff to the Tornado Wand, increasing its damage up to 75 to 100. The Unholy Bible has been nerfed down to 150 to 200 damage, and had reduced strength scaling from A to B. The Battle Axes have had attack speed increase, not much, from 2.25 to 2.5. Berserker Axes have increased damage up to 175 to 200. The Butcher Cleaver is now an epic weapon, and has increased bonus bleed damage from 100% to 300% more. Huge change, I really like that. The Crescent Axe has been buffed up to 200 to 250 damage. The Double Axe has been buffed for up to 150 to 200 damage. The Gimmer Shred has been buffed up to 175 to 200, and it's had a large intelligence scaling increase from E to A. The Stormbreaker has had its damage increased up to 275 to 300, and its attacks per second increased slightly up to 3. The Zenith has had its damage decreased down to 200 to 250. The Golden Skein has had its attack speed increased slightly up to 2. The Ninja Daggers had its damage increased up to 275 to 300. The Poison Sickles have had a damage increase up to 125 to 150. However, they've also received an attack speed decrease from 4.5 to 4, and they are now two-handed, as with all other sickles. The base sickles now have a damage increase of 100 to 125 and are two-handed. The Death Sickles now have had a large damage increase up to 175 to 200. Actually, it's not that large. It is now two-handed. The Hungry Blade has been buffed, granting a 50% higher crit multiplier on boss kill instead of 30. The Skinning Knife has had its attack speed increased up to 2. The Big Chomper has had a attack speed increase up to 1.5 from 1.25, and a slight increase in damage up to 475 to 500. The Maelstrom has had its damage increased up to 225 to 250, but its attack speed decreased from 3.5 to 3. Echoing Fury has had an attack speed increase from 1.5 to 2, and a damage increase up to 175 to 200. Mjolnir has had its increased damage up to 275 to 300, increased attacks per second from 2.25 to 2.5, and greatly increased lightning damage up to 450 to 500. I want to find Mjolnir so bad. The Morning Stars had its damage increased up to 325 to 350. The Quenchali, weapon I love, has had its damage increased significantly up to 375 to 400. The Windhammer has had its damage increased slightly up to 225 to 250. The Crop Scythe now inflicts bleed. The Gungener has had a damage increase up to 225 to 250, as has the Halberd. The Halberd now also always inflicts armor break. The Poleaxe now always inflicts armor break. The Naginata has had its damage increased up to 225 to 250, and has had its strength scaling from A to C, A to S, and its dex from D to B. Reading's hard, but that's the Naginata looks significantly better now on paper. The Life Hunt Scythe now inflicts bleed. It has had a damage increase up to 225 to 250. Reaper's Toll has had its damage increased up to 225 to 250. Increased attacks per second by 0.25 up to 2. And now has a 50% bonus critical hit multiplier bonus. The Trident has had its damage increased up to 125 to 150. The Broadsword has had its damage increased up to 225 to 250. The Broken Hero Sword has had its damage increased up to 100 to 125. The Demon Blade has had its damage increased up to 150 to 175, with increased attack speed bonus on bosses with an increase of 10%, previously 10%, now 15%. The Energy Saber has had its damage increased from 170 up to 175 to 200, with its attack speed being nerfed by 0.25 down to 4, with an increased sweep damage from 250% to 300%. Quite interesting. Excalibur has had its damage buffed up to 225 to 250, increased attacks per second from 3 to 4, and intelligence scaling of S. The Falchion has had its damage increased up to 225 to 250, as has the Frostbane. The Muramasa is up to 175 to 200, as is the Pirate Saber. The Rapier, which also has an attack speed increase from 3.5 to 4. Salamandra has had its damage increased up to 225 to 250, with its attack speed increased slightly up to 2.5. The Short Sword has had its damage increased up to 175 to 200, as has the Star Fury, which has also received an additional increase in attack speed from 2.5 to 3. The Moonshine Greatsword has had its intelligence scaling improved from A to S. The Buster Blade is now rare, previously epic. The Swift Blade has had its damage increased up to 175 to 200. The Blast Bark has had its damage decreased down to 225 to 250. The Chlorophyte Bow has received a nerf down to 225 to 150. Or 125 to 150. The Cluckeye Bow has been nerfed down to 25 to 50, which doesn't really matter. The Composite Bow has had its damage decreased down to 125 to 150. The Crude Bow has had its damage decreased down to 125 to 50 as well. The Dragon Slayer Bow has been nerfed significantly. going down all the way to 750 to 850, as opposed to its previous 950 to 1000. It has had a very moderate attack speed increase to compensate, 1.3 to 1.5. We had a Dragon Slayer bow run not too long ago, and I was commenting it wasn't really distinguishable from the sniper, and I think this change makes it worse than the sniper, but does technically distinguish this from it. The Ice Fang has been nerfed, reducing its strength and intelligence scaling from A's to B's. The Snow Angel has been nerfed, down to 125 to 150, which actually surprises me. The Storm Cloud has had its improved attack behavior and increased attacks per second from 2 up to 4. Worth keeping an eye out for that. The Thorn Bow has been nerfed down to 150 to 200. Improved attack behavior on the Wing Bow, which I love that thing. The Bariza has been decreased down to 125 to 150 damage, which, given the amount of shots, that's quite a significant nerf, actually. The Crossbow has had its damage decreased down slightly to 225 to 250. The Demon Repeater has been buffed up to 175 to 150 to 175. The Full Auto Crossbow going up from 125 to 150. The Hellsingers, my boys, have been buffed up to 100 to 125. The Octoshot Crossbow has had its attack speed decreased from 2.5 to 2. No, 2.25 to 2. The Relic Crossbow has had a damage nerf ever so slightly down to 125 to 150. The Twin Shot Crossbow has had its damage decreasing quite significantly, down to 175 to 200. The Bazooka's damage is decreased down to 650 to 700. The Grenade Launcher has had its attack speed nerfed from 4 to 3. The Laser Gun has had damage decreased down to 175 to 200, but improved attacks per second from 3.5 to 4. The Laser Rifle has had its reload time increased, not halved, doubled, from 1 to 2 seconds, but improved its intelligence scaling a lot from D to A tier. So it's more of a rifle, less of an assault rifle. The Machine Gun has had its reload time increased from 1 to 2 seconds. The Maxi B has been increased up to 125 to 150 damage, but decreases attacks per second from 12 to 10. The Railgun has had a damage increase up to 175 to 200, but increased its reload time by half a second. The Rocket Launcher has lost some damage, going down to 700 to 800. The Shotgun has had a damage decrease down to 125 to 150, which is actually a shame. It wasn't amazing, but I quite enjoyed using it as a kind of a fun gimmicky gun. The Sniper Rifle has had its damage decrease quite a bit, 650 to 700. The Snow Launcher has had an increase of reload time by 0.25 seconds and has been renamed to the Snow Cannon from the Snow Launcher. The Death Beam has had its damage decreased down to 700 to 800, I guess nerfing sniper weapons across the board. Triple Machine Guns have had their reload increased by 0.5 seconds. The VBFG has had its damage decreased down to 700 to 800. The deck of cards now has a better description, which it was desperately needed. The Kunai has had its attacks per second increased by 0.5. The Lightning Javelin, which is awesome, is now even more awesome, up to 175 to 200, and removed its ammo and reload. The Molotov Cocktail no longer has ammo or reload. Same with the Poisonous Concoction. Oh, I didn't know about that change, and I love it. Oh, that's perfect. I love that so much. They're a great secondary weapon. Sorry. The Paper Bomb Kunai has had its base damage increased from 75 to 100. Its attack speed increased from 3 to 4. Its damage of explosions increased up to 375 to 400 damage per sticker? I loved that weapon, and it's now so much better. The Shuriken now has a better projectile path. Thank God. I remember complaining about that one. Throwing Javelin has lost its ammo and reload time, and the Disc Launcher has been renamed to the Disc Cannon. Whew. That's just the weapons. We still got quite a bit to get through. There is new equipment, which I will just read the names. I'm not going to read what they are, I'm just going to read the names. The Wander Boots, the Sophisticated Headgear, the Panda Mask, Chances of Varus, Seth's Walking Stick, Hand of Blood, Tyler's Robe, Eggshell, Eye Patch, that's me, Bear Pelt, the Red, Blue, and Green Hoodie, Santa Hat, Santa Coat, the Spiked Shield, the Paladin Shield, the Gladiator Helmet, the Bishop Hat, the Amazon Bracelet, Meteor Armor, Paladin Helmet, the Cloak of Mystra, the Lab Coat, Love it. The baseball cap, red heels, the unsolved Rubik's Cube, the perfect Rubik's Cube, the power scouter, the peg leg. I didn't know about that. Goliath Greaves, Balrog skin, the demonic shell, Templar's might, elusive boots, dragon scale shield, the spirit shield, apprentice boots, stoneplate ring, the cursebite ring, the blue tearstone ring, and the hornet ring. And now, equipment balance changes. There's also quite a few of these. Thankfully not as many of weapons, from the sake of my throat. The gold crown now gives 10 more room duration to effects, previously +5, but now has a 2-room attunement. All of the D&D Thorn armors, Aegeus, Avernus, and Thorns have gotten, well, I guess Armor of Thorns is just Armor of Thorns, now give +1 armor in addition to their previous effects. Battle armor has had a 15% increased melee damage from previous. The Crimson Cloak now gives 30% increased dots instead of 20. The Dragon Scale would previously reduce elemental damage taken by 50%, but now reduces all damage taken by half a heart. The Hunter Cloak now gives 20% increased crit chance, as opposed to 10. The Kimono now gives +2 stamina instead of 1. The Poncho now gives 5% increased damage per current stamina, previously 3. The Pyromancer's Coat has been renamed to the Pyromancer's Hood, from the Pyromancer's Hood. It now gives 25% increased fire damage, previously 15. The Sage Robe now gives 25% increased magic damage, previously 15. The Tunic, there's a trend here, now gives 25% increased attack speed, previously 15. The Wizard Cloak now gives you +2 mana, as opposed to previously 1. Flame Treads now also give a 10% increased movement speed bonus. The Cross Pendant now grants +1 absolution when you kill a boss. It previously just gave bonus damage versus fiends and undead. I really like that now, actually. I'm going to definitely be taking that more. The Lapis Bracelet now has a 25% increased AoE radius instead of 20. The Obsidian Bracelet now gives +50% bonus melee damage to enemies at close range instead of 20. That's huge. The Power Belt gives 20 strength instead of 15 again. The Ruby Ring gives 50% increased burn damage up from 20. Whoa. Same with the Sapphire Ring. 50% increased effective chill and frostbite up from 20. The Silver Serpent Ring now spawns 5 soul pickups on rune completion instead of 1. 250 souls from 50. The Skull Ring now gives 15% increased damage against bonus and bosses instead of 10%. I'm starting to hiccup from talking so much. The Topaz Ring now gives 50% increased shock effect instead of 30. The Sorcerer Cloak now gives 25% slower mana degeneration rate from 40. The Dragon Scale Greaves now give 20% increased mana damage for 4 seconds on dash instead of 15. The Jester Boots now give 30% increased stamina recovery speed instead of 25%. The Lightning Boots have been buffed in damage up to 2,000 to 250. I know that's a typo. The Bunny Hat is now give 50% increased movement speed instead of 10%. The Cowboy Hat is now a rare item. The Plague Doctor Mask now gives 20% increased dot tick rate instead of 10. The Sack now gives 25% increased bleed damage instead of 15. The Skull Cap now gives 15% increased melee damage instead of 10. The Thieves Hood is now a helmet and grants 50% increased crit hit multiplier instead of 25. The Cloth Hood is now a helmet. The Voodoo Mask now gives 30% increased poison dots instead of 15. The Witch Hat gives 15% increased magic damage instead of 10. The Dark Orb now gives 20% increased magic attack speed up from 15. The Pyromancy Flame now gives 25% increased damage over time instead of 15. The Spellbook now gives 20% increased magic damage up from 10. The Torch also gives a 100% chance to burn with melee weapons up from 10. That's awesome. I love that. Tower Shield now gives 5% less speed down. Triumvirate now grants 3 elemental orbitals that inflict the elemental effects Burn, Shocking, Chill, and the Maiden Dress is now a rare item. With the addition of the very, very difficult Cinders, the game had to have huge balance changes to accompany that. So, here we go. Consumables and other items. The Power Shard now grants a level up. There are now 12 charms, which grant stats while in your inventory. One of them is a new unique charm, which is the Watcher's Charm added for Dan Giesling. The Crystallized Soul Heart grants a Soul Heart on consumption. Sacramental Bread grants +3 Absolution on consumption. Zinc grants +1 Intelligence growth for 10 runes. Protein grants +1 Strength growth for 10 runes. Calcium grants +1 Dex growth for 10 runes. Pokemon reference, I wager. The Golden Dice allows offered items and armories to be re-rolled, as well as re-rolls and restocks offered items in shops. I suggested that one, even called it the Golden Die. The Obsidian Dice allows you to exchange a trait with a random new trait. Holy Water infuses weapons with Holy. That's very cool. And then we have the new materials for the Broken Hero Sword, Mithril, Ice Flex, Heat Flex, Volt Flex, Toxaflex, Bright Flex, and Dark Flex. The tent is now a charm and will recover 1 heart when you enter a new floor. Much less good, but still cool. The Blacksmith Whetstone can now upgrade melee weapons up to level 4. The Power Gem now grants 5 level ups. Probably is rarer too, I'm not sure. The Fresh Gold resin, the Fresh Charcoal resin, and the Fresh Crystal resin now have unique icons. The Antidote Potion no longer grants poison immunity. Trait changes. It is now Goat Force. There are now 12 negative traits called flaws through the Cinder system. Improved dynamic descriptions appended on proficiency traits. Arcane Potency now can't appear while having Vitality or Constitution and vice versa. Great change. Brawler now gives 15% more damage per enemy in the room, up to 45%. Solid buff. Decay now gives 10% increased dot damage per second spent in the room, up to 200. Previously 2%, up to 100. Much better. Single Out gives 25% increased damage when facing 1 enemy instead of 20. Dreamer grants 75% increased damage bonus from mana, up from 50. Glass Cannon now only adds half a heart of damage taken, instead of a full heart. I might actually take it now. Grenadier can now only be triggered by ranged attacks. Increases reload speed up to 3, but reduce the damage of grenade splinters slightly. Lethality is no longer hybrid, it is now a dex trait again, giving it 150% crit hit multiplier instead of 125%. Resolute Technique now gives 40% more damage, up from 30. It needs more still, it's still bad. Savage Wounds now grants 50% more bleed damage, up from 30. Wisdom now grants 3 mana instead of 2. Warcaster now grants 10% more magic damage per maximum armor, previously 30% maximum magic damage while having any armor. Interesting change there, I think I like that. Arcane Potency now grants 15% more damage, dealt per soul heart up to 75% more, previously uncapped but 8% per soul heart. This is huge to the speedrunning community, of which I'm not a part of. It does not affect me in the slightest. I was not huge on Arcane Potency, but the community, I know, I was on the Discord, they were umming and ahhing about this when we was on the PTR. It's not as bad as people say, it just means that soul hearts are now not the goal for every single build you do, if you're trying to be MLG or whatever the frick. Enemy and combat changes. There are now 6 new enemies in the Cinder system, 18 new enemy enchantments. Boss enemies will now spawn more mana stars depending on the floor. This starts at 7, spawned per health bar from bosses in floor 7, and goes up to 20, spawned per health bar by Megadeth. The King Ooze now shoots slightly fewer projectiles with some attacks. The Gargoyle with the Halberd will now shoot less projectiles on wall bounce. During Enrage, Pharaoh and Phoenix aren't invulnerable during their special phases anymore! Yes, thank you! They now get a damage reduction that decreases damage taken by 80%. That's fine. I just hated them having invuln phases so much. They still can't be forced to go into second phase during these phases and have to finish their animations and attacks. That's good to know. I'll remove the Red Eye gift for the Sacramental Bread. And obviously, as previously mentioned, the tent has been changed. New rooms. The Royal Armory now has a chance to spawn instead of a normal armory. They contain rarer weapons and offer 4 choices instead of 3. Pawn shops now allow you to sell weapons and armor by dropping them on the ground. There are 2 new event rooms in floor 1. and new events in floors 2, 3, 4, and 8. Secret rooms are slightly more common, which is also a buff to the eye patch. Eye patch supremacy, eye patch supremacy, eye patch supremacy. Added new NPCs to the tavern. Depending on your Cinder level, the Knights of the Order of the Silver Flying Dragon will give you different things. On Cinders 0 to 4, they give you a Blacksmith Whetstone. They give you a Golden Dice on levels 5 to 8. Crystallized Soul Heart on 9 to 12, and a Purging Stone on 13 to 16. You have to show them a weapon of rarity tier hot, rare, or above. After having received a gift from a knight, no more knights will appear in the game. And I'm about to spoil how to evolve the Broken Sword. Knights are more likely to appear the deeper the floor is. At some point, finding a knight in a tavern is almost guaranteed. You will have to upgrade a weapon to level 4 to reforge the Broken Hero Sword. You can guarantee getting a Blacksmith Whetstone by using the Iron Knight on low Cinder levels. On higher Cinder levels, you are not guaranteed to be able to repair the Broken Hero Sword. You need to get it to level 4 to evolve it, which is why this is a thing. So you can go in there and get that Whetstone to guarantee evolve it on those lower Cinders. And yes, I plan on doing a journey up from 0 Cinder, probably going to do this like in a row, like as a streak thing. We're going to go from 0 Cinder up to 16 Cinder. Like doing a run of 0, winning, 1, winning, 2, winning. Alternating characters, I wager. Standards are no longer permanent, so that doesn't matter. Now guaranteed to find 4 armory rooms each dungeon. Big deal. Big deal, big deal. Armory rooms now contain weapons of a fixed type of rarity, uncommon, rare, epic, or legendary. They no longer contain a magic, ranged, and melee weapon anymore. They instead can have at least one weapon of the type you're holding, and the others are random. I don't like that change. I liked when it was one of each, but I understand why it's actually better this way. But as someone who is big on the Zane, I'm not huge on it, but I'll live with it. The Healing Nurse is now 5 gold instead of 10. The Goddess of Sin now grants +3 in Absolution instead of immunity to all curses. The reward granted from the Guillotine event has been changed. And the reward granted by the Study Room has been changed and removes the Madness status effect from the game. Nice. The Doppelganger will copy the last class you've beaten death with. And every class but the Doppelganger has a hidden ability which influences drop rates of certain items. I don't know those off the top of my head, but they're important. I'm not going to go over the blood fixes? The bug fixes! And we're just going to go right into the B update. Not as big, but still worth noting. The Doppelganger got changed back. Now copy another class each time you defeat death with it. Each time you defeat death with a class, it will change who your Doppelganger is. This rotation is not random, so if you were going for the achievement 10 Doppelganger wins in a row, it will give it to you. Okay, I added a new option to the option menu which enables you to lock Doppelganger. While locked, the copy class won't change anymore. Very cool, especially if you're a speedrunner or want a specific build. Speedrunning is removed. Sorry. As mentioned before, the final armory will now always appear latest on floor 9. Made an encounter with the Rat Council in floor 8 a bit briefer. If you have Mana Blade trait, the mana display will now tell you mana grants attack speed in the bottom right. Thank you. Buff the appearance of the Bear Den, the Old Hag, and the Tomb of Hoodies. The -1 luck applied from the Genie event in floor 5 now lasts 10 rooms instead of being permanent. Rangers now find more quivers. I like that. Increase the chance to find a potion or consumable that applies a buff you don't have already. We've had, this was, if I remember correctly, mostly equipment changes and bug fixes. Yeah. So, the Coin Bag gift now gives 30 coins instead of 20. The Soul Orb can now only be used when you have 6 traits. Storm in a Bottle has had its damage doubled. The Panda Mask is now epic instead of legendary. The Tyler's Robe has had its quality of rewards greatly increased. The Amazon Bracelet is now rare instead of epic. The Curse Bite Ring now gives 10% increased damage per curse you have instead of 5. The Obsidian Bracelet has had its damage increased up by another 50 up to 100 at close range. The Skull Ring is now rare instead of uncommon. The Lab Coat is now rare instead of epic. Meteor Armor has been nerfed, giving you 5% less increased magical damage. Santa's coat is now rare instead of epic. Steel plate armor is now uncommon instead of rare. Dragon scale greaves now give 25% increased melee damage for 4 seconds on dash instead of 20. The peg leg now gives you 10% less movement speed instead of 5. The gladiator shield is now rare instead of epic. Mojo is now epic instead of uncommon, and it grants 50% increased poison tick rate instead of 15. The pyromancy flame is now rare instead of epic. The torch is now common instead of uncommon. Triumvirate is now rare instead of epic. The eye patch is now uncommon instead of rare. And all of the hoodies are now epic instead of legendary. I love doing these patch note videos, but they bring out rapper speed in me almost sometimes. Increase the delay of normal death's lightning strikes during phase 2. Made the spiraling laser attack of Megadeth a bit more controllable in phase 2. I assume that your gap is a little bit less tight. The battery enchantment reduces the spawn rate of batteries slightly. Party has now had its projectile speed of confetti particles decrease slightly. Okay. Or speed slightly, yeah. The meteor enchantment has had increased expansion time of meteors. Possessed weapons enchantment reduced weapon spawn rate reduced slightly. Added an initial delay before spawning weapons of 4 seconds. Okay. The Oktoberfest enchantment is reduced firing rates slightly, and the shield enchantment increased downtime slightly. Alrighty. The Knob Twiddler has had its range increased to 35 from 20 and now gives 1,000 bonus damage instead of 500. It's a super, super, super tiny flail, and it's awesome. I'm looking forward to trying it. The Demon Repeater has been buffed up to 175 to 200. The Misfit's Sword now gives a little purple bubble effect above your character while you're invulnerable. The Gatling Gun has had its damage increase up to 175 to 200. The Maxi Bees had its damage reverted up to 175 to 200. Oh, no, that's increased again. That's not reverted, that's just increased again. Railgun is up to 225 to 250. The Zweihander now gives plus 5 base damage per strength instead of plus 10. Dang it, Ruby. My Zweihander video is coming out, I think, the 3rd. Where I just destroy Megadeth with the Zweihander after months of hearing people say it's bad. I put it to the test and I absolutely kicked his ass and it was awesome. The Beetle Wand's been reverted back to 175 to 200. The Blasting Wand has had its attacks per second decreased by 1. The Bubble Wand has had its damage increased up to 125 to 150, and bubbles now explode. The Dark Wand has had a damage increase up to 125 to 150. The Frozen Orb Wand has had its projectile changed, and it fades out a bit to reduce screen clutter. It's had an attack speed decrease from 1.5 to 1, but a damage increase significantly up to 225 to 250. The Kugel Blitz Wand now emits lightning less frequently, fades out over time, decreased attacks per second from 1.5 to 1, increased damage up to 100 to 300. The Shock Wand increased damage up to 75 to 100. The Slither Wand now applies 5 stacks of poison immediately. The Spark Wand increased its damage up to 75 to 100. The Cluck-Eye Bow Chickens now deal 1,700% more damage instead of 1,800% more damage. That's actually quite a bit. And in the math, it works out significant change. Stormcloud increased attacks per second from 4 to 5. Now deals 100 to 300 damage instead of 150 to 200. Again, not going to go over the bug fixes. You can read those for yourself if you would like. Here they are. Okay. Let's move on to this one. I think this one actually just came out today. This one came out today. And is what reminded me to do this video. The Christmas event is gone. You can now sleep in taverns to reroll the NPCs. Each point of dexterity now reduces reload speed by 0.25%. Yes! I love that. The Oktoberfest enchantment now reduced the amount of pretzels. I've not seen the Oktoberfest enchantment and now I'm concerned. The Death Zone enchantment has been renamed Danger Zone because contrary to popular belief, it doesn't kill you. The Proximity Defense enchantment has had a downtime increased from 4 to 8 seconds and reduced the damage reduction from 90% to 85%. The Shield enchantment reduced damage reduction from 75 to 70. Sickles now have a plus 20% crit hit chance across the board. Daggers have all had their range increased by 15 to 20 units. Thank you. Makes the golden skein worth attempting. This was a big update. I did not realize. I'll drink my drink after this. Here we go. Stormbinders had a damage decreased down to 200 to 250. Thornrender, spore projectile damage increased from 30% to 50. Might be an error there, that doesn't sound right. Shadow Razors had its sword strike damage increased from 200% to 250. The Heat Slayer base damage increased from 225 to 250 to 250 to 300. Mjolnir's had quite a big change. The Lightning Strike cooldown reduced from 0.5 seconds to 0.25 seconds. The Lightning Strike base damage Lightning Strike base damage has been increased from 450 to 500 up to 500 to 2000. I need Mjolnir so bad. The base attacks per second has been increased from 2.5 to 3, and the range is increased in the Lightning Strike by 15 units. The Gungeon's had its attack speed increased up to 3. Its base damage has been increased up to 275 to 300. Dragon's Breath now shoots between 1 and 3 projectiles. They pierce, increase range by 40 units, and base damage has been significantly reduced down to 75 to 100. I like that change, actually. I was a big fan of the Dragon's Breath. I think that'll make it a little bit more fun. And a bit less of just like, let me just spam a bunch of units a bunch of balls in a straight line. The Doomerang now has a base damage increase up to 175 to 200. The Doom, which is afflicted by the Death Beam and Doomerang, now deal 100% bonus damage upon reaching 2 stacks instead of 750%. The Spider Summon Tomes had its base damage increased up to 225 to 250, and the Seeking Strength of the Spiders is better. Slither Wand has been increased, doing 10 poison stacks instead of 5. The VBFG has had its reload reduced by half a second, and its base damage increased by up to 750 to 800. The Death Beam has had its damage increased the same. The Sniper Rifle is up to 750 to 800. The Rocket Launcher is up to 800 to 900. The Piranha Gun is up to 225 to 250. The Outstanding Money Gun, is base damage is up to 50 to 75. The Grenade Launcher's damage is up to 300 to 325. The Bazooka is up to 750 to 800. The Stormcloud is up to 100 to down from 100 to 250. The Moonshine Greatsword is up to 225 to 250. The Kugelblitz Blitz Wand is down to 100 to 250. Agility, Berserker, Inferno, Power, and Wrath potions have had their durations doubled. The Endurance potion is up to 5 rooms from 3, and the Rainbow potion is less common. There's a new item, the Hero Cape. The Eggshell now requires 1 attunement. Improve rewards greatly from Tyler's Robe, and reduce the attunement from 2 to 3. The Triumvirate now grants plus 3 base melee range. A base melee and range damage per dexterity instead of 2. The Blue Cotton Hoodie reduced an attunement time from 2 to 10. Okay. The Green Wool Hoodie versatility now grants 25% increased damage and attack speed, and Amped versatility now grants 50% increased damage and attack speed. The Peg Leg now grants 1% increased movement speed per gold, and now has a limit of 50% increased movement speed. I really like that. The Bear Pelt now gives plus 3 base damage per strength instead of 1. My Eye Patch now grants 5% critical hit chance. Maybe it should give 10. The Santa Hat is now uncommon, previously rare. Got some trait changes. The Colossal Might slows attack speed by 25% instead of 30. Constitution has been removed. Vitality now grants the health recovery from Constitution. I love that. Give and Take now grants 6% increased damage, blah blah blah, instead of 5. Some changes to the Cinder modifiers. Jinx now applies -1 luck for the rest of the room upon taking damage instead of just always -1 luck. Survivor Bias reduced duration of movement speed slow to 4 seconds instead of 8, and reduced the movement speed reduction to -15 instead of -20. You can now take +1 heart while at full heart health instead of +half a heart always. Reduce maximum damage reduction per gold from 20% at 80 gold to 15% at 100 gold. Lightning conduits now strike you every 12 seconds and reduce radius of lightning strikes. Short-sighted, you now deal 50% less damage at far range, and previously no damage dealt at far range. That was needed. That seemed a bit much, in my opinion. I watched a stream with someone who had that, and it was rough. Slippery Slope, if you lose gold upon taking damage, you now only lose 5 instead of 5 to 7. Sloth now applies 20% longer Stamina recovery and regeneration time instead of 50. Sunk cost fallacy now reduces damage of weapons by up to 15 instead of 20. Thieves will now find fewer keys, and the hero will start with the Hero Cape body armor. I'm gonna my Cinder Zero run to kind of start the streak is gonna be a hero run, by the way. Event changes. The giant clam now requires a dexterity threshold to snatch the pearl ring instead of a 50-50 chance. And the jungle pylon status effect now grants 10% duration of shrine effects instead of 5. And those are all the patch notes for 0.1.9. If you've not been playing Tiny Rogues, you should. It is my favorite game of 2022, my most played game of 2022, and I am looking forward to playing it all the way through 2023 until this hyperfixation stops, if it ever does. If you're enjoying my Tiny Rogues content, be sure to subscribe, check out the Discord, check me out on Twitch, all that fun stuff. It's not in the description. You know where it is. You've been to YouTube before. Thanks for watching other than that. Peace out, guys.
Hello, what's happening? It's that man in black and green. Sometimes sweet and saccharine. Sometimes he be as mad as me. Insanity, persistently, forever entertaining the man in green. This is triple